Hey everyone, I'm Ultimate456, you're the Ultimates, and welcome to episode 44 of Less Platinum Danganronpa 1, 2, Reload. There has to be proof that shows Hifumi was still alive. I have to find it and show it to everyone. Here we go. So, what was the proof that Hifumi was alive? Well, there is one thing. Let's see if we can work out what it is.
Well, here's one thing we do know.
Oh, that's interesting. They just said the same thing.
The first time we found Hifumi's body was in the nurse's office.
Mm-hmm.
And then, while me and Celeste were in the bathroom,
Mm-hmm.
his body disappeared.
And the next time we saw his body, it was in the repository.
But when you compare his body before being moved and his body after being moved,
See how that's not moving at all?
other
The
than
reticle?
the change in how it was positioned, there was no notable difference.
Then, was he really still alive?
Of course not. It is impossible. This is ridiculous.
Alright. The reason I can say Hifumi was still alive, if I can just find the contradiction in these statements, I'm sure it'll become clear. Well,
here's one thing. The first time we found
Hifumi was pretty much in the same position,
And the next time we saw
but there was
him,
one noticeable difference. And that was
other than the change in how it was, there was no notable difference.
his glasses. Bang!
No, that's wrong.
No, that's wrong.
In fact, there was one clear difference between Hifumi and the nurse's office in the repository. His glasses. That fact alone proves that he was only playing dead in the beginning.
Perhaps you'd like to fill the rest of us in?
When we found Hifumi in the nurse's office, his glasses were covered with blood. But when we found him again later in the repository, they were spotless. And I found the item he used to wipe them clean in the nurse's office trash can.
Okay, that one's pretty easy because it actually tells you, like, well, I don't know, I feel like it's easy to remember. Let me just see that. This is actually, yeah, the cloth was found in the trash can in the nurse's office. It's the first item on it. So Hifumi was playing dead, and he cleaned his own glasses after
It was a glasses
everyone
cleaning
left.
cloth featuring a certain cartoon mascot. One look at the bloodstain on the cloth should make things clear.
But now this presents more questions. Why was Hifumi playing dead? Don't worry, it'll be answered.
This piece of cloth was used to wipe Hifumi's glasses clean. And the mascot on the cloth is the same one that's on the digital camera, right? And whose digital camera was it? Hifumi's, of course.
The character was Princess Kiggles from Demon Angel Pretty Pudgy Princess, I think.
Well done.
I highly doubt anyone but Hifumi would have brought something like this to school.
I see your point. And the only people here who wear glasses are...
I wouldn't be caught dead using a tacky piece of garbage like that.
A few tissues is all I need to keep my glasses clean.
Then there's no question. It belonged to Hifumi.
So what you're saying is... What exactly?
What I'm saying is, the blood on his glasses was wiped away using his own glasses cleaning cloth.
Even if that is true, it does not mean he wiped the blood off himself.
But who would benefit from a clean pair of glasses other than the glasses owner?
That's a good point.
Then it must have been him, right?
So let's assume that Hifumi was still alive in the nurse's office. He pretends to be dead. Then when he's alone, he wipes his glasses clean so he can see. Then he stands up and walks out on his own 2 feet. And with that, the impossible task of moving his copious corpse becomes possible, wouldn't you say?
His copious corpse. What an interesting little bit of like alliteration there.
Then, if he was just pretending to be dead, what was with all that blood? Was it paint or something?
Ah, that's been explained too if you've been paying attention. Let's find out.
The fridge in the nurse's office contains packs of blood for emergencies. He probably used one of those.
Yeah, probably only one. I would definitely say only one. We'll see.
He figured if he was gonna play dead, he should go all out, so he just dumped it everywhere. But he got crazy
Nice.
with it and had to wipe his glasses off when he was done. God, what an idiot!
And if Hifumi was still alive at that point, the disappearance of Taka's body is easily explained. It should be perfectly obvious who must have moved Taka's corpse.
This one's a bit of a jump, but Hifumi is who moved Taka's corpse.
I got it! It could only have been Hifumi.
I only say it's a bit of a jump because it's like they kind of go to the trouble of explaining everything as like detailed as possible, sometimes going over things that have already been established. And that's kind of the way it has to be to ensure understanding. But when here it's like, oh, like Taka's body must have been moved by Hifumi because we've already established that no one else could have possibly moved it. But we haven't technically established that Kyoko couldn't have moved it because she hasn't told us where she's been. But anyway, it could only have been Hifumi.
While we were
And
all
there's probably
gathered
another
in
reason why
the
Kyoko
nurse's
couldn't have
office,
moved it too, but
he
I can't
went to
remember.
the equipment room and took Taka's body.
While we were all gathered in the nurse's office, he went to the equipment room and took Taka's body.
That also explains how the door to the repository got locked.
The door was locked? Well, after the bodies disappeared, we all went looking for them, right? So me and Sakura headed for the repository. But when we got there, the door was locked.
And the repository door can only be locked from the inside. Which means when Hina and Sakura got to the repository, someone was already inside.
And it could only have been Hifumi, who just finished stashing Taka's body there.
He convinced us all he was dead, and when he saw his chance, he dragged Taka's body to the repository. So, Hifumi wasn't just another victim in this case. He was one of the assailants.
But that means he took part in the murders.
I just can't believe it.
If you're having trouble, would you like me to show you one more piece of evidence?
There's more?
Oh, absolutely. The single biggest fact pointing to his involvement has yet to be revealed. You know what I'm talking about, right, Makoto? The item he took off of Taka's lifeless body?
Yep. The thing that Hifumi stole from Taka was the note that Hifumi had because... Well,
I got it!
it's going to be explained, but it's pretty
You're
obvious.
talking about the note Hifumi had hidden away, aren't you?
Hidden note?
That's right. We found it stuffed in his pants.
What? In his pants?
Yes, his pants.
Okay, well, forget about the pants for now. Take a look at what the note says.
I found a hole. Maybe we can use to escape. You know, actually, I should just point out, it's very... if memory serves, because I haven't seen it in a while, but I remember that in the movie The Shawshank Redemption, which I accidentally missed the allusion to earlier in the game when, funnily enough, Hifumi was the one that said it. Isn't, Dufresne, like what's his name? Tim Robbins, Andy Dufresne. Doesn't Andy Dufresne like make a hole to escape from the prison? So it's funny that like this line here is almost like it kind of relates in a small way. But anyway, I found a hole maybe we can use to escape. Monokuma can't find out, so don't tell anyone else for now. Let's meet in the equipment room at 6 a.m.
That's the note I was telling you about. The one that told me where to go. Huh? Wait, this one's a little different. In my note it said, Monokuma can't find out, so don't tell anyone else for now. Let's meet in the rec room at 1 a.m.
I see. Then this note isn't the same one Hiro got.
It's not the same?
In other words, the killer got in touch with another person besides Hiro, and that person could only have been...
Taka.
I got it!
Hifumi's pants.
That's right! Taka! The killer used this note to draw out Taka and murder him.
So Taka went to the equipment room around 6 a.m. and then the killer killed Taka because his wristwatch stopped working at just after 6 a.m. Taka must have noticed just in time so that he could attempt to defend himself, but the wristwatch got broken. So that had to have been for Taka.
Hello? Over here! Objection! Objection! I don't really
What
understand
objection?
what's going on, but Hifumi had that letter, right? So whoever wrote it wasn't drawing out TikTok, they were drawing out Huffy!
TikTok is Taka and Huffy is Hifumi. Sure, I think they're gonna explain.
Just to be clear, TikTok is Taka and Huffy is Hifumi, right? Ugh! Yes! Why must you ruin it every time?
Man, Genocide Jack is seriously scary. But still, I can't let it get to me. Dun, 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 dun. So, we have to prove why the note was for Taka and not for
The
Hifumi.
note, right? Then the person it was intended for must have been happy.
But remember what the note said. What time did it say to meet?
6 a.m., I believe.
The time doesn't matter. The note has nothing to do with TikTok.
Oh, I think it does.
No, that's wrong.
Just do that one there since that was the last comment in that little phase.
No, there absolutely is a connection.
What the hell are you talking about?
The note said to meet at 6 a.m., which is the same time Taka was murdered. We've already proven that using his wristwatch. But there's more. Look where the note says to meet. The equipment room, right?
Which is where Taka was killed. I see.
So, Taka was murdered at both the time and place written in the note. I think that should be plenty to show that this note was definitely meant for Taka.
Well, when you put it like that. No further objections.
Then someone used that note to trick Taka. Just the same as me. The culprit really is a cold-blooded monster. Telling people they found a way out.
But if they gave the note to Taka, what was Hifumi doing with it? Stuffed down his pants, no less.
Most likely. Hifumi stole it off Taka's corpse after he died.
Huh? He stole it?
Where's your proof? Go ahead, show us.
Well, the proof is the scrap of paper. If you notice, it fits perfectly onto that side of the rest of the note.
I got it! When I searched Taka's body, I saw that his lifeless hand was gripping a small scrap of paper. If I'm right about this, the sheet of paper this piece came from is... I knew it! It fits perfectly with the note we found hidden on Hifumi.
Then Taka's scrap and Hifumi's note.
Yup, they're from the same piece of paper.
Hifumi had the note meant for Taka, while Taka's corpse still grasped a small piece of that note. There's only one way to explain it.
Taka died clutching the note. Hifumi tried to free the note from his death grip, leaving behind only one small scrap. Did I get all that right?
That means Hifumi knew the note was important.
Exactly. Which proves that he was an accomplice in the murder.
Whoa. Yeah. After seeing all this, Hifumi was super involved in this whole thing for sure. In fact, he was behind the whole thing. In fact, he's still alive.
Sorry, no. When we found him in the repository, Hifumi was truly and completely dead. The second body discovery announcement proves that.
So then, who killed Hifumi?
Whoever did is the mastermind, the true killer.
He was killed in the repository. So he must have been killed not long after transporting Taka's body.
So, he must have been killed after Taka's body vanished, but before we found both bodies in the repository.
During that time, we'd all split up and were searching for Taka's missing body. In other words, during that time, none of us have alibis.
Wait, but me and Sakura were together. Stop trying to steal the spotlight, you stupid walrus! Who are you calling a walrus?
Anyway, when they were killed bothers me too. But there's something that's been bothering me even more.
And what might that be?
The weapon they used to kill Hifumi.
The weapon?
Yeah, because I mean, according to the Monokuma file, the way Taka and Hifumi were killed was almost the same, with them having similar fractures and all. But Justice Hammer 3 and 4 were still laying around in the nurse's office and equipment room, right? So if Hifumi was killed in the repository, the culprit would have had to grab one of the hammers, then put the hammer back where they found it.
Kill Hifumi.
But wouldn't that be seriously risky for him?
I'm surprised. It seems there's some semblance of a brain knocking around that skull of yours after all.
Yeah, that's probably the smartest thing Hero's ever said.
Hell yeah, it's packed in there good and tight.
He's right, though. I don't understand it either. The Monokuma file makes it clear that they were killed using similar instruments. But if the hammers were already laying around those other rooms...
So the question is, how could the culprit have gotten their hands on either of the hammers? Personally, I haven't a clue. So which hammer was used to attack Celeste? Number 1 or number 2?
Those were accounted for in other rooms too. And I don't think either one is big enough to kill someone.
Then,
Is it not possible they used a different weapon?
I don't think it is possible. They were both killed with the same kind of thing, right?
So then, what was used to kill Hifumi?
The weapon that was actually used to kill Hifumi. The whole picture surrounding this case won't become clear until we figure that out. Somehow, I have to find the truth. Alright, let's see if we can figure it out. So, it's a weapon similar. They were killed with similar weapons. So we've got a spotless hammer. They weren't killed with a broken wristwatch or a blue tarp.
What was used to kill Hifumi? Was it Justice Hammer 3?
And this part's
Maybe
funny actually.
Justice
Listen
Hammer
to
4?
Genocide Jack.
well, whatever it was, there's one thing we have to figure out. How was the culprit able to move around so freely with the weapon? How did nobody witness them carrying it? Sounds like a Justice Hammer 5 is about to make its appearance! Check out murdergear.com/hammertime for more info!
Murdergear.com
One thing seems pretty clear.
/hammer time.
The murder weapon had to be one of the Justice Hammers. And,
You know what? Let's hit. Oh, damn it. I was like, maybe they'll let me, but they don't. If the weapon used to kill Hifumi really was similar to the weapon used to kill Taka,
What
so
was used to kill Hifumi? Was it Justice Hammer? Maybe
that's actually
Justice
really
Hammer
confusing
But
because
there's one, how
if
is
the
it
weapon
done?
was similar
How did
to the
nobody-
one used to kill
Sounds like a Justice Hammer.
Taka,
Check out murdergear.com/hammer.
well...
then it has to be Thing. But it's actually, it's not one of the Justice Hammers.
No, that's wrong.
It's the Spotless Hammer, which was in the repository, so they didn't have to walk around with the...
The murder weapon wasn't
hammer.
a Justice Hammer at all. No, it was something completely different.
It wasn't Justice Hammer, it was something completely different. It was a hammer that was not a Justice Hammer.
But, seriously? A different weapon?
It's for serious, dude.
Specifically, a hammer from the repository. The killer could have easily used that to kill Hifumi.
It's not in Makoto's personality, but wouldn't it have been hilarious if he just went, for serious? No, for serious. I can't do his voice. Specifically a hammer from the repository, the killer could have easily used that to kill Hifumi.
All the hammers in the repository were covered in flecks of grit and debris, but for some reason, one of them had been scrubbed clean.
Huh?
And the reason it had been scrubbed clean was most likely because it was used to commit murder. If the hammer got covered in Hifumi's blood, of course they'd have to clean it off. I'd also like to point out that the repository has all kinds of hammers. Big ones, small ones, and even some flat mallet-like ones. I think whoever made the Justice Hammers used those as a basis for their design.
If that's true, that would explain the Monokuma file's note about the wounds being similar.
So Hifumi moved Taka's body to the repository, where someone then used a hammer to kill him.
And whoever did that is the true killer. The one Hifumi was working with. And the one who betrayed him. Hold on a moment. I still think it's strange to assume someone was working together with him. The way the graduation rule works, there is no benefit to helping someone else carry out a murder. So the idea that anyone would work together like that is simply ludicrous. We talked about this, did we not?
We did talk about how there wouldn't be any reason for anyone to work together. At least that's what I thought at first. But yeah, there's one, I think from memory, there's one reason why people might want to work together. This is yet another absorb bullet thingo. So we're gonna have to
Based on the rules that
use
have
that.
been laid out for us, even if more than one person is complicit in the murder, Only the one who actually carried out the act can graduate and survive. Assuming the rule holds true, it is simply impossible that two people work together on this.
That is how the rule was explained to us.
But that only really applies if there's one murder, right? In this case, however, there were two murders.
Alright, so because there were two murders, that changes things. Let's find out how. Is the possibility of an accomplice really that insane, or is there some chance?
Based on the rules that
So
have
let's
even
just
is more
skip
than
ahead
one, only
here.
the one who actually carried out the assuming the rule holds true.
No, that's wrong.
No, that's wrong. Since there were two murders, it's at least plausible that more than one person was involved.
What do you mean?
If there'd only been one murder, then yes, the idea of an accomplice isn't really worth considering. Naturally, if only one person can be saved per murder, an accomplice has no risk versus reward benefit.
Risk versus reward benefit?
Come on.
The payoff for working together. The reward that balances out the risk of taking part in a scheme. There's no point in being someone's accomplice if there's no benefit to you. However, if there were some potential mutual reward for the risk, then cooperation becomes possible.
You're saying that two people could act as each other's accomplices to commit two separate murders.
I think that's what the true killer told Hifumi. They would each have an accomplice for their crime. And based on the case's events, Hifumi would have been the first one to act, murdering Taka. They made him carry out the first murder so he couldn't back out of helping them later on.
So in this case, there wasn't one single person committing multiple murders. Instead, each person killed someone, creating two separate incidents. And it only looked like one person because that's how the true killer designed it to look. A single suspicious individual, a similar weapon used in each crime, disappearing bodies. By creating one seamless set of circumstances, they made it look like one person was behind it all.
The mastermind picked their target and managed to convince him to go along with their plan. And then, to avoid the no accomplices rule, they simply killed their accomplice. Which, if true, means that betraying Hifumi was part of the plan from the very beginning.
That's just awful. How could anyone be so cruel?
You think so? I can't help but admire its cunning. Still, their choice of accomplice seems odd.
The effort made to convince us the two murders were the same. That was the main characteristic this time. Kyoko must have noticed that fact from the very beginning, which is why she said not to look at this as a series of connected events, but entirely separate incidents. Kyoko really is amazing. Although, when you think about it, she's almost too amazing. Like, it's almost unnatural how good she is at
I
this.
understand how an accomplice could be involved. But then, who was the one pulling Hifumi's strings?
That's problem numero uno right now.
The true killer manipulated Hifumi to carry out a number of actions, and in the end, murdered him. In the debates up till now, the way the case has unfolded, when you consider all that, there's really only one person who seems to fit. And we'll find out exactly who that is next time. I want to thank you all for watching episode 44 of Let's Platinum Danganronpa 1-2 Reload. My name is Ultima456. You're the Ultimates, and I'll see you next time.